Beautiful day here in Alpharetta, Georgia, and I'm here for some SPL action. My name is F. Joining me is going to be Adonis, and we've got exciting North American Smite coming for you today.
Denial versus Envy up first, followed by Enemy versus Eager to close the day. But for me, really, Envy taking a couple spills recently. To be fair, they have been against top teams, both 2 games to Eager and then 1 game to Team Solo Mid, but 3 of their 4 losses coming in their most 2 recent matches.
Yeah, Envy really started the season off fantastically, similar to Epsilon on the side of Europe. But as Kevin just said, they've since suffered a couple of losses. Why don't we take a look at how the scene looks together with those losses in mind? So you can take a look. Still up on top is Envy, but they have gotten a couple more. So 19-5, still looking very strong. But because of those couple of losses, #1 seed not exactly locked in like Europe. So Eager only 2 steps behind. They have a shot. Envy has to win against Denial if they really want to keep that first seed.
Yeah, Envy just needs 1 win here against a struggling Denial. But on the other end, Denial need 1 win or 2 wins here. Mm-hmm. They're trying to catch up. Right now, they're 1 game off of land contention. Enemy and Cognitive Gaming sitting at 10 wins. Denial sitting at 9. But Denial have a rough end to their split. They're facing Envy here. They're facing Team Solo Mid next week. Yep. And they need probably at least 3 wins to stand a chance.
Yeah, it's going to be rough. Denial still in the running. Let's take a look at their team right here, as they're the ones that are going to go up against the #1 contenders here in North America. It's Macetodaface in the middle, and his brother, of course, is Shadowq. And the newest addition to this squad is going to be Sikandara, the artist formerly known as Homie Iffy.
Yeah, Xing actually participating in the MLG event that we've got running this weekend as well. Yeah, more information on esports.smitegame.com. But Xing moving over to the console scene, they bring in Sikandara, and it's kind of funny because at the beginning of Season 2, Sikandara and Xing were competing for that spot on Denial. It ended up going to Xing, and with his departure, they bring in the guy who didn't make the cut.
Yeah, and things have been working out. Sikandara has been providing some of the plays and such in the past couple of weeks watching this team play. We'll see if he's able to take it up against Envy, as this is the team that, as we said, #1 contender in North America, and they're the ones that are coming up on top of a lot of the action, and a lot of that starts and ends with CycloneSpin.
A little bit of struggle in recent weeks. However, Envy is still the #1 seed in North America, the top team. They've been there since the end of the spring split, where they surprised everyone, beating Cloud9, the former world champions. After that, they went on to win the spring finals, participated in the summer split. They were the top team in the summer split. Went to the semifinals of the summer finals. This is a good squad, and their recent troubles, I think, are going to be very limited. In my opinion, honestly, this is the best thing that could have happened to Envy, is right now, a couple weeks before the end of the split, before they go into the Super Regionals, because we see so many teams go into the Super Regionals overconfident. Okay. They feel like they are safe. They feel like they're secure. They get a little bit sloppy, and they suffer for it. Smite as a whole has had 2 tournaments where teams that were first seeded have won. Yeah. That was the launch tournament, where it was Team Solo Mid, the European squad, and then North American Regionals, Cognitive Red last year. Only 2 out of every single land that's happened.
You know, and it's also not just feeling too comfortable and sort of resting on your laurels, but also there's something to understanding how to lose.
Yes.
A lot of these teams, you know, undefeated or nigh undefeated, it can come as a shock when all of a sudden you're at LAN, lights, cameras, actions, people in the audience, and you lose 2 games in a row. That can get in your head. If you've suffered a couple of losses, you understand, all right, 1 game at a time, quarterback's memory, so to speak, just get on to the next game. So having that sort of experience in losing sounds a little silly, but in the long run, at a high level of play, really matters.
Let's get to game 1 here just shortly. Picks and bans coming at you. Envy versus Denial. Envy trying to secure first seed. They need a single win. Denial, they're 1 game right now off of the 6th place spot at Super Regionals, but they're probably going to need a couple more than that to catch up to Cog and Enemy.
So 1 is really the most important number here for both of these teams. If Envy goes ahead and wins a single game, as Kevin said, they will get everything that they have been fighting for this entire season. And the same thing for Denial. They need a single win to really keep up in the race to stay and find themselves at the regionals. So Envy, Denial Esports on opposite sides of the map. Denial on the left side with the first pick. The bans are out. Nothing too spectacularly surprising. Just a whole bunch of top-tier picks.
Thor taking out Sun Wukong as well by EnVy. Pretty targeted, I'd say, at Denial with the Thor pick. Not a guy you see banned out all the time. Hell and Circuit taken away from EnVy. The Hell is definitely a pick they do not want going to CycloneSpin. Denial Esports going to lock in Athena for their first pick, going to Shadowq more than likely.
Athena first pick is interesting. There's a couple of other gods that you might have seen picked before this, most notably Khepri. We heard you guys during picks and bans in Europe how important Khepri was to those two teams that we just finished watching. Khepri is going to be selected over to
Janus?
EnVy, so maybe they're asking the same thing. And Kumbhakarna going to be selected for EnVy. So this is a god that we've seen this team run in the jungle, believe it or not. Kumba recently has had some changes to his damage output and can be seen in a couple of different positions.
I don't think we're going to see it in the sport role. That's more than likely going
Agreed.
to be Khepri, but a pretty ambiguous tank lineup. We've seen Weekend play it. We've seen, I don't think we've seen Incon play it. We could see Kiki play it, or we could see Cyclone play it.
Right.
More than likely going to the jungle, but like you said, ambiguous pick here. Could go multiple roles. Huyi, Janus locked in. That's what I'm surprised at, but it's kind of understandable. EnVy, they have the ability to pick Janus, which you would see almost every other team in the SPL grab. However, EnVy historically has not really run Janus. It's not a god that Kiki, I don't know whether excels in or prefers, or just the team doesn't give it the respect it deserves, but it's not a pick they play often.
Exactly, and it's just that EnVy has a different approach to the mid lane specifically. The game in general, but specifically the mid lane, they tend to treat that more of, I don't want to say support, but more utility than most of these other teams. And while Janus definitely brings a lot of utility, we generally see Kiki play gods, whether if he's not playing the new WoW, the traditional mid laners, he's playing more tanky gods. We've seen him play or more support-oriented gods. We've seen Aphrodite. We've even seen Athena. So
yeah, some more jungle or some more targeted bans. Excuse me. We have Naja taken away from Sikandara. Nemesis taking away from more than likely CycloneSpin, but could be a weekend pick as well if they wanted to run Kumba mid or solo. Zhong going to be locked in, going to the solo lane. We actually did see CycloneSpin run this against their Eager matchup, although didn't have a lot of success on it individually. It'll be interesting to see if he has a better game against Denial.
It's very interesting.
Very tanky lineup, by the way.
Exactly, and because of that, Kevin, it's very interesting to me as Batz is locked in on the left side for Denial, that Nemesis is banned out by Denial. I mean, in the first round of picks, you've already got Khepri and Kumbhakarna picked up. Once Nemesis is taken off the board, that gives EnVy free reign to just keep going tanky.
Final pick coming in for EnVy could be one of a few roles here. Zhong could go to Kiki in the mid lane, and they could be looking for CycloneSpin to play a warrior here.
Yep.
Wukong not up. Bellona was locked in for Denial, but it is going to be Chaac more than likely going to that solo lane. However, Kiki has played this in the past. Back when he played solo lane, he could bring it to the mid.
I mean, right now I'm looking at EnVy's lineup. Kumbhakarna can wind up either in the jungle solo or possibly in the mid lane, believe it or not. Zhong can wind up in the solo lane or the mid lane. Chaac can do mid jungle support solo.
Support Xbalanque, ADC Zhong.
I mean, hey, Zhong does have addition to his basics, but with that, we'll see a pretty standard lineup, quote unquote, as there is a jungle Kumbhakarna, but that's besides the point. CycloneSpin going to go red pot Chaac, so definitely looking to be aggressive at the very least early. KikiSoCheeky going to be bringing that Zhong into the mid lane. So we've seen a lot of Zhong these days wind up in the solo lane. What's the difference when you bring this character into the mid?
I mean, there's really not that much difference. He still does the same thing. He's still looking to clear and team fight. He doesn't have the best mid-harpy fight. He's very good at team fighting. Not very strong at mid-harpy contention, but mid-harpy contention isn't as strong as it used to be back in the spring and the summer split when they were worth more golden XP. So teams, really it's about flexibility on what players you want to play it or who you want to get farmed into the late game faster. And it seems like they want to get Chaac to be the god to be farmed up.
And because of that ability to put, not Kiki, but the Zhong pick into either role, we wind up seeing it almost a 50-50. We've seen a lot of him in the solo lane, but just now we watched the European match where there was a mid lane Zhong. So this character really finds himself in both positions almost equally, as opposed to some other characters that lean more towards one side or the other.
Yeah, they probably also don't want to Chaac in the mid lane.
Why not? Chaac money mid.
You can run it.
Chaac money mid.
Well, okay, so an interesting start coming out from Denial here. It looks like they were kind of expecting the invade positioning from Envy. This is what you'll see typically if you're worried about the enemy team invading, but no, it's going to be a split camp. I'll be interested to see what Denial does with this.
Speaking of Denial, so one thing that we saw last week out of Denial that was interesting, made some people scratch their heads a little bit, was a hog, a Hand of the Gods, on the support player Shadowq. He used that to really invade the enemy jungle and make use of that. This time around, there's a hog on the map, but it's not Denial's. It's going to be in the jungle of all positions on Envy's Jungler Weekend. So Kumbhakarna, Hand of the Gods, in the jungle. Break this down for me.
The idea basically is to 100% secure the mid Harpies because you don't have to worry about the enemy team just getting the last hit on them. And we actually saw that in that last engagement there. The portal was dropped to Mace and it would have been close, but the hog came out from Weekend just in time. So they're looking to really control the early game jungle. You could also see a lot of invading coming out from there. And you'll take a note that that's probably actually why Sikandara decided to do that interesting or that unique jungle start, is because he thought the invade was coming because of the hog.
The mid lane, a little bit of damage onto the monkey, but Sikandara able to jump out of there. And you'll take a look. So two different things happened here last week. The last time we saw the Hand of the Gods, CycloneSpin, getting aggressed on, but he'll be all right. It was level 1 because Shadowq was looking to secure jungle buffs, just that single minion. Now, as you said, looking for the mid Harpies, it's level 2. And the way Hand of the God works, level 1 only crushes 1 minion. Level 2 will hit 2 minions. So because of that, that's why we see level 2 instead of level 1 if he's looking for the mid camps.
Clear coming out in the mid lane. Looks like it's just kind of a poke fest for now. Weekend taking an early back at 2 minutes. Not something we typically see from a jungler. Not going to get interrupted, though. The monkey doesn't bounce that many times. Whalrus, though, this lane was actually dead even for quite some time, but if you take a look at the potions, it is in favor of CycloneSpin. He's got 1 extra as well as a heal in his kit, and Whalrus can't really match that. He has a heal as well, but it's about auto-attacking, and it's very dangerous to auto-attack into a Chaac who now slows your speed by a significant amount in his rain dance.
Yeah, you know, I don't always... It's interesting. Bellona definitely has a heal, but it's not something she maxes. It's difficult to pull off. I don't really value Bellona's heal personally as much as Chaac's or, say, Hercules, really.
Those are both better. I mean, hers is kind of like a enhancement to her Scourge.
Right.
It's good
like
when you have lane control and can get it off. But if you don't have lane control, especially if the other solo laner has strong clear, it's you kind of got to max bludgeon. So
and strong clear, Chaac is pretty much the
zone boys.
Chaac is pretty much the complete definition of that. And yeah, Zone Boys is right. Weekend is standing here, and now that he's level 5, Weekend is a big threat. Basically, the idea behind this Kumbhakarna is to use the ultimate, knock a player up, and then just basically annihilate them when they reach the ground, because in doing so, they'll already be taking a lot of damage.
What I'm really surprised about here with this Kumbha pick is they don't have a lot of setup for it. It's like, what are they going for? What do they combo with the Kumbha? He takes someone to the air, and there's no big ultimate that he's landing down on. I mean, outside of CycloneSpin silencing someone, but it's that ability isn't like a ton of damage. A lot of times you want to see it comboed with a burst mage like a Kraken or something.
Right. Well, these days, I mean, Weekend, if he starts building power, I mean, this Kumbhakarna winds up being, maybe not a Kraken, but there's a lot of damage involved, especially there will be a Soul Reaver.
For me, that takes way too long to get online, though. I mean, 25, 30 minutes, yeah, Kumbha's going to start swinging with his ultimate once he's level 20 and hasn't maxed out. But the first, I'd say few fights, unless it's a completely passive game, Kumbha really needs to look to set up for someone else. There is the combo where you can actually blink in on Kumbha, ult someone, and then mez everyone around you.
Yeah.
And then the player comes crashing down and does a ton of splash damage.
Ton of AoE.
Still, there's a lot of play around that.
Very true. Right now,
forcing the jump
might be played around. Yeah.
Double root.
Jump going to be forced out. Shadowq finds himself surrounded.
Shadowq wants them to use ult. You could really tell.
Yeah.
I believe Weekend's dash got caught there, but
Shadowq,
the damage.
Shadowq, as you said, he wanted that to happen, and I think it was a little too obvious how hard he wanted that to happen. Janus stuck in the portal, not able to find his way through.
Oh, Macetodaface popped sprint 1. Looks like he's going to be going heavenly. Doesn't have it online yet. Actually going to get zoned, not zoned out, but cut out here by CycloneSpin,
who just looks at him. But the rest of the team is here.
Macetodaface has so many options. He really didn't want to waste the mana, I think was the idea.
Yeah.
See, he thought Mace was going to immediately portal, and he thought it was a waste to throw his axe because of the travel time. It's like a very small play, but then Mace also knew that, right? These are the games that Mace. This is the stuff that Mace thinks in his head all the time. He's like, I know you're not going to throw your axe at me because you think I'm going to portal through.
These are the more, Denial hasn't exactly had the best of splits this most recently, but these players on this team are some of the more cerebral players. We see a lot of these smaller plays come out of the guys on Denial. Shadowq and Macetodaface, sort of almost most notably. Shadowq right there before maybe showed his hand a little much. He wanted to get ulted by the Kumbhakarna, but if you stand in front of somebody for that long, it's a little too obvious, so Weekend didn't take the bait.
CycloneSpin boxing out Whalrus here. Sikandara was just clearing the way. But Weekend, he's rotated as well. Looks like he's going to not find the route, just barely off.
Just off. Off by maybe an inch there? Not even. Very, very close.
Rotation here to the mid lane. KikiSoCheeky actually could get caught off by Sikandara.
Coming out on the solo lane. Jump going to be forced out by Sikandara. Up in the air. Ultimate used. Weekend on the ground waiting. Mezzed out. And there's the ultimate out of Sikandara. Denial's going to look to turn this around. CycloneSpin going to ult, but it's not enough. He's just going to die for first blood. 6.5 in. Denial still pushing the gas pedal. EnVyUs made the rotation. There's 3 members here from EnVy, and 2 of them are going to fall through the portal. Denial picks up first blood and disengages successfully. So it's a 1-for-0 exchange going the way of the Wolfpack.
The power of Janus there, just getting Sikandara out. He was able to sneak through that portal quietly and not have a return kill. And as well as Shadowq. Boxing going on here on the left-hand side at lane. Bronx looks like getting the better of Allied so far.
So these 2 characters, hi-rez and Xbalanque. Xbalanque is pretty much a late-game character with respects to, and with hi-rez, he winds up sort of being a late-game character as well, with as far as boxing is concerned. When it comes to the Mark of the Crow, it really comes online. It's interesting that ability sort of gets boosted later on. You don't get a huge boon until a couple of points are put into it.
Shadowq going to spin the taunt and actually send Weekend straight through that threshold, slowing him down. Allied continuing to get forced out here, forcing Incon to rotate, but now the numbers advantage is in favor of Denial at these mid-harpies. I'm actually not sure who got those. Probably Weekend's Hog, because it is down. It's a 60-second cooldown. It's on cooldown for 50 seconds. Shadowq is just kind of annoying Weekend, but he might have baited himself here. His ultimate is available if he wants to use that to get out, but no, it looks like Denial's going to turn it. Weekend's super low, going to send up Sikandara to the sky. Incon's going to catch him on the land down. KikiSoCheeky was waiting to cover the option, but he chooses the other option.
Weekend had to be so careful, otherwise that might have been a play if Weekend had a little bit more HP, but as we said, had to be a little cautious. So Weekend just opts to hang back, head back to base. Still only 1 kill on the scoreboard here for us today. Denial leading the game in kills, and everything else pretty much all about even. Macetodaface trying to back, but Kiki's presence will make Mace think twice.
Shadowq is just kind of annoying EnVy right now, and honestly, there is a lot to mental getting in someone's head in Smite. It's not like other games where there's a lot of shots that are targeted. Everything in Smite is skill-based. It's all aimable outside of very few abilities, most notably Neath Ult, but you still got to know when to really utilize that. And getting in people's heads and annoying them, that actually does take a part, because you might see Weekend start to be a little bit more aggressive, trying to lock down Shadowq. I'm not saying that'll happen, but it's something to take note of.
I mean, we definitely see that. Sometimes players will just try to force the issue after
Ooh,
a while.
Shadowq.
Shadowq going to force the issue on a CycloneSpin. Another strong ultimate out of Chaac. That'll get a strong silence. Combination of Sikandara.
Oh, please. Come on.
And Whalrus looking for the kill on a CycloneSpin. Whack.
That took a while, though, and Weekend has actually rotated. Knocked Whalrus up into the sky. Root's going to miss. There comes the snipe from Macetodaface. Whalrus just trying to get through the portal. He is able to escape. Big rotation from Incon as well. Macetodaface, though, he should be fine, especially with Shadowq channeling his ult. Whalrus takes another portal. That's the power of Janus and Denial Esports. It was a very, very sloppy dive. They still managed to find the kill and escape, though.
Unfortunately for EnVy, Weekend has just not been on the mark.
Kiki's in trouble as well. No beats for him.
And he's going to be smoked out by the ultimate out of Sun Wukong, or rather the other monkey on Batz, my mistake. But Kiki, so the ultimate will double his protections and he'll be able to get out of there safely. Here comes Chaac, fresh out of the base. He's got to walk around the threshold into the minions, so unable to really continue.
Right now, just sloppy play from EnVy. Same with Denial, but they seem to just be barely coming out on top. The BronxBombers is controlling Allied and Incon. With the aggression that Denial has across the map, has been forced to rotate and can't really provide Allied support. Hog 2 going to be used there to steal away Sikandara's speed buff, so EnVy still taking what they can.
You know, I actually like the Kumbhakarna pick as Allied gets aggressed on. Bronx looking for the basics, gets a strong stun out of the ricochet.
Zhong's actually my kill.
More.
Yeah, one more tick, that's it. Wow.
Stuns, take him down. Surprise, surprise.
Rotation coming in from Kiki and Weekend here. The root, is it going to be in place? No, the jump was available. Bronx takes to the sky. Denial Esports right now up 3-0 on the top team in North America. And, you know, last week it was kind of like Denial. They're almost guaranteed out. They had to beat EnVy and Team Solo Mid, almost 2-0 them, and still hope that Denial, or excuse me, that COG and Enemy drop some games. But right now, they're in control of this game 1 against EnVy.
They're playing it smart here, Kevin. The Denial are finding the small pickoffs that they know they can take. They understand that Kumbhakarna is looking to play the long game, not necessarily the early game. So they're applying pressure quickly and then getting out because they respect EnVy's ability to group up and collapse. So they're getting a kill and then finding the exits as soon as possible because EnVy shows up. That might not be a fight they want to take.
For me right now, this team comp from EnVy hasn't been the most well drafted. It may depend on what they're looking for, but they don't have a lot of early game pressure at all. CycloneSpin has been getting controlled in lane, taking 2 deaths. Whalrus finds 2 kills. You know, as well as Weekend. You know, he's been ulting players in place, but they have no setup, right? He lands down, and what happens? Incon grabs him with a duct. Like, that's just not enough damage. Kiki's thrown out some abilities as well, but they don't have the burst to lock down these players early. And, you know, EnVy looks like they're looking for the late game, right? But it's going to be hard for them to get there.
What I've noticed about EnVy, specifically on Weekend, is I actually like the Kumbhakarna pick. I like it a little bit more in the solo lane, but that's besides the point. I like the pick, but what's happening is we're seeing the ultimate come out, and then Weekend's own follow-up is missing. We're not seeing the ultimate into the root. The root just isn't hitting, and because of that, there's not as much control as EnVy, I think, anticipated, because they're just missing it. So missed abilities are leading to a lot of missed opportunities and thus missed kills on the side of EnVy.
EnVy is still controlling the aggression of this game. You can see Weekend most notably kind of traveling in between this mid and left-hand side, and he's actually going to get smelled out by Shadowq. You can see that EnVy, they're trying to force something. Weekend looking for the mace. His blink 1 is up, but Shadowq going to be the one to taunt Incon here.
Up in the air, forced by Weekend. That root's going to hit, but beats out by the mid laner. Janus will be safe. Sikandara's here, and everything's going to be all right.
Right, if you combo this with a Kraken, he's dead. But instead, Mace is able to sneak out of there with Sikandara's great turnaround snipe coming through here. It looks like Denial not going to be able to keep this aggression up. Whalrus forced to be zoned out by CycloneSpin and the tower.
See, yes, of course, if you combo that with a Kraken, it's hot death. If there was no beads there online, which is, of course, a large if because it's a mid lane Janus, he's going to have beads. If the beads weren't available there, I think that would have been a death with or without some mage burst. So that's just a sticky situation.
Big lockdown
Solo
here.
rotation.
Kiki's in a lot of trouble. Whalrus finds him. CycloneSpin now surrounded by 3. He's going to have to retreat under tower. Weekend is back. His ultimate is available, looking for the root, but, I mean, players are just going to jump away. Allies rotated in. It's a 5-man grouping by Denial. Not going to be able to do the Gold Fury. It looked like they had wanted to. Shadowq's positioning says he wants to fight. He's going to taunt out Weekend here, but Denial, they've got to escape out of this one.
Yeah, and they understand that well. Up in the air, Sikandara in some trouble. CycloneSpin makes the rotation. There's that setup you were looking for, and EnVy put themselves on the board with their first kill of the game, 13.5 in.
EnVy focusing down. It looks like the Gold Fury, but Whalrus going to get caught out. You can see Shadowq ulting in place. Beats are used by Whalrus to get out of that one. Incon taking a lot of burst. Scarab's Blessing not available for him.
Bludgeon hitting like a truck, even on the support Incon. Khepri not quite fully built yet. Quite obviously very early on in the game, but all he really has is that level 2 breastplate.
This still isn't a big lead for Denial right now. They're trying to do this Gold Fury. This could actually swing the game in EnVy's favor if they were to come on top. But now Denial, they're turning on to Allied. Allied forced out, just barely gets out. Weekend, his ult is up so often since Bronx to the sky. He's able to jump out, but it's Shadowq caught him between 3 players. Takes the portal. Janus right now has made so many saves.
Sikandara, he joined the fight, but just a little late after the fight was even concluded. So no kills on the side of Denial or EnVy. Depending on what side of the coin you're on, that might be a good thing or a bad thing. I think that EnVy probably a little all right with not having any deaths in that fight.
EnVy so far doing a fantastic job of farming, however. They've lost 4 kills, including First Blood, and yet they're only, it seems, 800 behind?
Yeah, just about. And 5 of that is the First Blood, right?
Yes.
So 300 gold really just behind with out accounting for that first blood. EnVy sticking to it, but Denial looking very strong here at the very least. A very smart, I should say, because as I said, we're watching quick ejections from these fights. That was a fight that Denial, they're 4-1 in the kills, but they still didn't want to take the full-on fight. They're content looking for the individual picks and then going for here's and theirs.
All three members of Denial here walking over that sentry ward. Shadowq and Macetodaface are going to be smelled out. And you can see Incon rotating, also seeing them in the jungle and Allied playing a very passive game. BronxBombers has got the better of them so far. The build is even. However, Bronx does have beats 1. And Weekend right now, going this full cooldown reduction, he's got the Shoes of the Focus. He's got the Breastplate of Valor. And that's why we're seeing his ultimate come up so often. That's actually probably been the best thing that EnVy could have done.
Macetodaface knocked up, looking for the root. There it is, right into the Incon, but again, beats out. That CC immunity is going to be such a problem to follow up that.
That's a 3-minute window for Weekend to abuse that fact, and his ultimate's up about every 45 seconds.
EnVy making their way onto the left side, looking
Nice
for the
root.
Gold's Fury. Now looking for the players. Shadowq dashes out of trouble. EnVy not willing to go fight in the enemy jungle. They're just going to pull the objective. Sikandara, the hunter, and the support are present. Blinking in is Sikandara. Drops the ultimate, which will take Denial, which will take EnVy off of the Gold's Fury. Weekend in his passive. He's got a couple of basics. 8 hits. Needs to kill him. BronxBomber secures it. And it's a 3-on-3.
KikiSoCheeky has shell activated on him. Incon, though, finds Sikandara after the jump. Rising Dawn doing a lot of dot damage. Whalrus over the top. Shadowq looking for the taunt. Scarab's Blessing is popped. That's going to be Allied saved, and Incon walks away, pulling Allied over the wall. But, Denial Esports, they're winning 5-2 in kills, and about 600 to 700 in gold. But it just seems that they're still playing so defensive.
Yeah,
a little bit like they're on different pages, and this is, I think, the inexperience, or not inexperience, but the difference in skill level that we're seeing here. This is the 1st to 7th seed.
Sure. Yes, that's definitely the case here. One thing that I'm noticing is the matchup in the solo lane is going so well for Denial. Whalrus is absolutely killing it. You can even take a look at the player damage, which is an awkward stat when it comes to the solo laners, but it gives you at least an idea of how that's being represented. And Whalrus is just really taking control of this lane. He's maintaining about a half a level to a full level lead above CycloneSpin, despite the fact that CycloneSpin has one of the kills on his team. The difference is Whalrus is 3-0-0 as opposed to 1-2-0. And even look at the gold, 500 in favor of Whalrus.
Denial grouping up in the mid lane for now, and yeah, Whalrus having that huge lead. We've seen him make such a bigger impact in all of these fights. He's completely been out-rotating Chaac so far, but Whalrus has invested in the beats 1 early, really wants to make sure he doesn't get CC'd, most notably by Weekend, who has a lot of control in his kit. Something that may come into play here is that CycloneSpin has gone Mystical Male, but he has a Kumbhakarna on his team.
Ultimate out of Weekend and Sikandara, so 2 ults already taken out of the mark. Sikandara knocked up almost as soon as he unleashes that. BronxBombers gets a basic attack on Incon after a majority of the damage dealt by Macetodaface. So 2 members of Denial combined for a big kill in the middle lane. And with that, Denial going to head right to the Gold Fury. Kiki's here. So is Allied.
Kiki going to get turned on here in a 2v1, but it's actually Shadowq caught in the middle. Allied, he's rotating, doing a lot of damage. Sun's coming down, doing so much to Allied. BronxBombers might want to chase this, but doesn't know where the rest of EnVy are, so they back off. Weekend coming off of that, he wasn't able to die in that mid lane fight, and he's going to scare everyone away. He has his ultimate available.
Whalrus teleports in. Now all of a sudden it's a much different situation. Teleporting onto the teleported Whalrus is going to be Athena. So all of a sudden, when there was 0, now there's 2. Denial's ready to fight. Weekend knocks 1 up in the air. Down comes Whalrus, but Weekend goes down as well. BronxBombers make sure to step on him. Now Bronx is taking a lot of damage, but Mace is able to kill CycloneSpin before Cyclone turns around on the Hunter. Whalrus takes off Allied, a large hit from a long distance out of the mid laner, and Sikandara cleans up Kiki. 4 dead on the side of EnVy. Everyone alive for Denial. We've said it 2 times in the past 5 minutes, but this time, Gold Fury will actually be aggressed on.
Denial, four-man grouping on this Gold Fury. Incon just trying to form up the wave, and
Wow.
Denial Esports, this game was still close. We've talked about how Denial were winning the fights, but they didn't have a huge lead. Now they have this gigantic swing. You can just see it was only about maybe a couple hundred gold. Now 5,000 gold in the lead, 8,600 experience, and such a big lead right now. I'd say this is Whalrus controlling CycloneSpin so well.
Exactly. Once Whalrus made the rotation via teleport over to the left side, that fight went completely different. We saw this long extended dance of Envy starting a Gold Fury, Denial shows up and chases them off, and Denial started a Gold Fury and Envy showed up and chased them off. This time around, though, with Whalrus in the picture ready to fight here, completely different story. Stuns over the top, AoE damage, Mace to the face follows up with a huge snipe, and Denial able to take out 4 members, which opens the window wide for the Gold Fury.
I'm just really not a fan of this draft Envy has got. I mean, Denial, coming into late game, I think, Envy's team comp opens up a little bit more. I think they close the gap. But for now, they don't have a lot of damage. In this Kumbhakarna, I just don't understand the point of running into the jungle if you don't have setup with the rest of the gods on your team. There is actually no one who has an instant, high damage burst ability on their team to just one-shot someone with it. And Weekend gonna dash through. Actually, that was his ultimate. He should be fine, though. Damage reduction.
Underneath the tower. Don't forget, Kumbhakarna is a Guardian. Certainly looks like one. Big, thick, tanky guy. Really able to play that support role. Why is that, actually? Are there just better options for support? Well, actually, hold that thought. Kiki getting aggressed on by everyone. And he won't die, but Denial will force out the Khepri ult, which is a big win for them if they want a team fight.
I think they really want to abuse Ally. That's what they've actually put a lot of focus into. Rotations over there, but Allied's been pretty defensive forward now. You can see him actually forced off his own tier 1. BronxBombers just kind of... Allied's just scared of not only him, but the rotation potential. Shadowq finds a taunt. Actually, no, he misses the taunt. It's still Weekend locked in place. He's going to be able to dash out for now. Incon and CycloneSpin under this tower, trying to defend the siege. Sikandara jumps out.
Shadowq charging the charge, looking for the option. Waiting it out. Very patient play from Denial. Waiting probably for their minions. Shadowq still only 14. Not quite ready to go ahead and just dive.
Khepri ultimate should be up here pretty soon. Shadowq looking for the taunt. Not going to use it. Actually saves it. Weekend blinks into the backline. Mezzes someone out. Finds the root. But Incon super deep. He's blown up immediately. And this is the thing. Envy right now, if they can't win sustained fights, they're going to lose them overall.
Ultimate out of the Mace to the face, and that's going to follow Allied into the lane. Denial now.
Weekend has ultimate, but there's no one there to set up for him. He's going to be blown up. His passive proc doesn't even matter. He's going to fall, and Envy just going in one at a time, getting bursted down. They are looking so sloppy. This is not the #1 team in North America that we saw for the first 7 weeks.
One of the things that I like, and I think a part of that, Kevin, is Denial. Denial seems very clean. I think that the draft that Envy has something to do with it. Weekend on this Kumbhakarna, as I said, I do like the pick, but it's just not effective early on or even mid on. We're 23 minutes in, and it still feels like Kumbhakarna has yet to really, we usually say come online, right? It still feels like he's booting up. We're just not there yet.
I mean, a lot of Kumbha comes from him starting to level up. A lot of his damage, his ult is very powerful, but I'm going to keep saying that they have no setup, right? Or they have the setup, right? But they don't have anything. He's not landing down and doing a ton of damage. Also, a big thing that's going to come into play is this mystical mail that Chaac has built. CycloneSpin has gone into this, and it's very good for controlling his lane, but the second he team fights with Weekend, that mez is virtually useless. It's going to lower people's attack speed, but you can't make big plays where you mez people out and force them to use beads.
Weekend going to find himself back in the mid lane. And, another thing, not just the pick, but also take a look at the gold, folks. I mean, Weekend is just barely above his own support here. The farm is not with Weekend. Big
500 crit at 24 minutes. Bronx, please. Fight in the right-hand side, though. Whalrus getting caught out by 2. I don't know how this is going to go. Big fight in the right-hand side. It looks like a 1v1 under tower. Bronx, he's blind. He still finds the kill, though.
Love that play to BronxBombers. So during that Xbalanque ultimate, if you move, you get stunned, obviously. So Bronx, he stands still and just rotates. He just pivots. You can do that all day. And another one, CycloneSpin teleports in to try to control Bronx. But Bronx does the opposite and controls CycloneSpin. 2 players dead trying to take down this Ho Yi. He doesn't care. Level 20 on Ho Yi. He's about to take the tier 2.
2 1v1s, Bronx just
one after
demolished.
The other.
Right now, Envy, there are so many individual mistakes that we historically have not seen from this team. Bronx going to dive in the mid lane, and Denial going to be taking this tier 2 tower. Bronx is just standing tall and fighting everyone. This is the player, this is like that superstar that we talked about, right? Back in the spring and the summer split, we're like, Bronx, he is so good, right? He just needs a little bit time to develop, and coming here at the end of the fall split, he's keeping Denial's dreams for LAN alive.
7-0-5. I mean, he's half of the kills, most of the assists, right? I mean, this is a great slash line for a Hunter, and, you know, Denial just has to be asking themselves, Bronx, why do you do this in week 9 instead of week 2?
This is it for me, right? Envy has drafted this team comp based around getting to late game and allowing Ally to really hyper carry and CycloneSpin to kind of secondary carry. However, BronxBombers just 1v1'd both of those players like it was nothing under their own tower. In the darkest of nights, taking tower damage, BronxBombers is just outplaying Envy.
I don't think there's another way to say it. I mean, he was silenced, he was taking tower shots, everything bad that could have happened to BronxBombers in that situation was happening. He still winds up on top. CycloneSpin, interesting choice here. He goes the Frostbound Hammer. The most recent change to Chaac was that the slow was increased on his healing rain.
This is actually going to self-DR. We don't really talk about diminishing returns because it gets pretty advanced, but the longer the stuns, or the more stuns you have, and the longer the slows, the less effective the second one is.
Exactly. So looking at this combination, I mean, how much is this going to hurt him?
I don't think it's going to hurt. It's just the item isn't as effective as it could be. Weekend going to be locked out. Oh, the stun caught the dash. Weekend Bronx finds that kill. Allied in the backline. Whalrus is going to immediately turn his attention while the rest of Denial siege the tier 2.
Allied being forced out. The rest of Denial going to go chase him down. They understand the game plan from Envy.
Kiki's in a terrible spot. He's in the middle of 4. Denial, though, they're going to let him get all his demons off, stay out of the range of that AoE. They're going to play it safe for now. Denial giving a lot of respect to Envy. They are making sure they win this game.
You know, that's one of the second times that we've seen Denial just use the Janus ultimate to isolate a player and show up with 4v1 situation. From the very first minute, Fire Giant is started by Denial. That's what we've seen. Denial looking for the individual picks. Oh, you're by yourself? All of a sudden, we're here. You can't kill us 1v4, Envy. So we're going to take the numbers advantage right now.
Incon trying to get to this Fire Giant. BronxBombers has actually taken a lot of damage. Scarab's Blessing has popped, but I mean, Denial could just fall off of this. Bronx took way too much damage as Cyclone rotates in. This could actually be bad for Denial. So much poke was taken. Sikandara is forced off. Bronx to the sky. He actually lands back down. He doesn't care. He's going to fight CycloneSpin. Whalrus finds the kill. Taunt coming from Shadowq. Weekend, he's trying to dash away, but Whalrus over the top. He's going to fall too. The passive is up. It does not matter. Denial Esports, 18 kills to 2. Envy, what is going on?
Both of those players were just waiting for the last hit on the Weekend. Macetodaface was doing it, and then you saw 2 players right next just waiting, trying to get that last hit for the kill. Fire Giant being aggressed on now that CycloneSpin and Weekend are out of the picture. The rest of Envy forced back to base. They'll make their way here, but they'll be a little bit too slow. Because of that, Denial winds up with the objectives in their hands. 18-2 read the kills, ladies and gentlemen. 28.5 minutes on the clock, and the gold, well, over 10,000. Denial has 15K above their opponent. And Envy, just in case you need a reminder, Envy is the #1 seed, or the #1 team in North America. Denial, number 7. Can you say that Denial is a little... I mean, this team wants to go to LAN.
Oh, they for sure want to go to LAN. Don't get me wrong, you know, I've talked about Envy not really playing up to their own standard, but to be fair, Denial has been playing phenomenally.
Exactly.
Sikandara coming into this team has done a great job and has very quickly adapted to their playstyle. On top of that, Whalrus controlling CycloneSpin, that's something at the beginning of the split that they would have never even dreamed to have happened. And then BronxBombers so far just outplaying Envy front to back.
that's really just what we're seeing. I mean, BronxBombers by himself doing work. And
it's for me, it's Bronx and Whalrus. Both of
Yes.
these players are beating the two hard carries that Envy is looking at.
Exactly, and that's really what comes together. And the whole middle point of it, I mean, we're seeing Macetodaface use the ultimate to bring those players into the situation where they want to be to kill everybody. BronxBombers going to beat out the Abduct out of Incon. Up in the air, knocked up his Shadowq, but he's still close to 100% HP. That's a tanky Athena.
That's also three ultimates used on the side of Envy. Not a single one used for Denial. Shadowq going to find a taunt onto Allied. He's going to get bursted out, forced to beats. He's going to back up. Incon locks Bronx in place. Bronx
Here's
actually
Kiki.
used his beats early in that fight. Nice lockdown from Envy to focus him down. Looks like Denial, they just want to retreat.
That's exactly what they're going to do.
Good play by Incon there.
Unable to take down the Phoenix. Envy looks very strong as they deny Denial. Fire Giant and all in the left lane.
Denial still very far in the lead, but giving Envy a little bit of breathing room. No towers to take. The Fire Giant, I don't want to say it's useless, but they're not going to get a lot of... they're not going to extend their lead, probably a lot more than they wanted to off of it.
Exactly, and that was, I mean, that really was just the defensive set and the attention to detail coming out of Envy. They noticed that they got BronxBombers beads early on, and they were able to capitalize off of that. And
Bronx just had poor positioning.
And we were talking, Kevin, we were talking about this good thing about BronxBombers and Whalrus coming together to really do work against Envy. Well, that's what happens when you put all your eggs in one basket. You kill BronxBombers, and all of a sudden Denial has to retreat.
Bronx is still a hunter who can die very quickly no matter what his level is. He's got like 12 or 1,700 life, and that goes away quickly.
Very, very quickly. Especially now, we were talking Envy playing for the late game. Well, we are getting there. Allied is 0-4-2, but it's past 30 minutes. He's starting to build into the crit. It doesn't matter how many deaths you have at this point. You're getting the gold no matter what. So if at some point, and you know, this is the point, Envy is starting to catch up.
I really want to see Denial here, maybe not focus on one lane, but split up multiple lanes. They still have 50 seconds on their Fire Giant. They need to make something happen here now if they want to have this extra power and healing. And it's going to be Shadowq looking for a taunt onto Ally, but no one else to follow up. Weak into the back line since Macetodaface in the air, but he's going to be fine for now. Sikandara using that ult just to deter. And Envy, they've been poked out. Denial, they're still fresh.
Denial pushing down the mid lane. 5 members here. They have the objectives in their sight.
Kiki
And
still has ult.
the Phoenix. There it is. The Phoenix will fall, so Denial has gotten what they came for. Sikandara wants to leave, but his team still stuck in the middle. Shadowq taking some damage. CycloneSpin gets a silence off, but CycloneSpin's going to pay for it. Sikandara jumps onto him with a big crit. Long-range shot out of Macetodaface. That's going to deal damage, and what looked like a retreat, Denial quickly turns around. 3 members in the ground on Envy, and Denial takes a retreat. Turns it into aggression. BronxBombers puts another one on the floor, and the Titan is going to fall. Denial keeps their land dreams alive, taking one game over the #1 team in North America, Envy.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that right there, that's all our analysis. See you later.
Wow.
Just wow. I mean, surprising, fantastic, good play. Where do we start with this one, honestly?
I think we go back to the draft. The Kumba, it just really didn't seem to work out for them at all. And
Yep.
First Blood, though, did end up going the way of Denial Esports. Over in that right-hand lane, and I believe, was it CycloneSpin who died?
Yes. We see the rotation out of here. CycloneSpin drops him in the ultimate to try and stop some of the damage, but it's just too much. Whalrus winds up on the top side of things, and that was sort of the beginning of that solo lane. It was really, for me, about the outside lanes coming out from Denial. BronxBombers doing a fantastic job taking on Allied 1v1, and then Whalrus doing the same thing. So here it was just about individual responsibility on the side of Denial really coming out in the clutch.
Early game 2, for me, Macetodaface and his Janus portals got so many players out that they looked like they would have died. They almost guaranteed would have been died without those. The team of Denial really working around that Janus, and they don't respect Janus for themselves, right? They don't. I don't know what, for whatever the reason is, they don't really run a lot of Janus.
Envy
but,
or
Envy.
Right.
Envy does not run a lot of Janus. but we typically see it banned away from Mace. A lot of times we see Mace just double banned out because he is so good with that god.
Yeah, I mean, Janus winds up being one of the better gods in people's wheelhouses, and because of that, Macetodaface winds up being one of the better players here today. 4th out of all 10 players on our Alpha Draft top performance list, and basically all 5 are going to be the winning team, and no surprise to me, BronxBombers in that number 1 slot.
Yeah, we saw him just 1v1 2 players under that tier 2.
That was incredible, and because of that play and many others, he's going to be our player of the game. I mean, that Kevin, that was at the end of the day, it was just fun to watch. We'll get a chance to take a look at it, but we'll start off from the beginning. This is just BronxBombers versus Allied in the long lane. Just immediate aggression.
This was the first 1v1.
Yeah.
And then he 1v1 Allied later, and then he 1v1 Cyclone.
You know what I liked about that situation right there was that it took a long time for that to turn into a kill. There was just from 80+% HP, Bronx wanted to go for the kill, and he just decided to do it.
He was just finding the autos he really needed and timed the ultimate, the Suns perfectly there, and then he finds We Could Hear in the retreat, and it was just clean plays. He was hitting his auto attacks, which are so important. I know it's like oh, well, of course I'll hit your auto attacks, but like it's not always easy to hit most of your auto attacks.
This is the play, ladies and gentlemen.
Succession.
Watch. So BronxBombers, all right, he's got to take care of the minions first in order to get up to Allied. But here, he's got a little bit of a life lead, but still, it's all even going on. Darkest of Nights comes out, and that's what I was talking about. He didn't move to risk getting stunned. He just pivots, and then Envy sends some help, and it just doesn't matter. Bronx says, I'll take you on too, CycloneSpin. He's healing, he's marked, he's ulted, he's jumped on. Everything goes right for BronxBombers, and CycloneSpin falls as well.
Wow.
Just an incredible play.
Yeah, Denial keeping their land hopes alive, currently tied with Enemy and Cognitive for wins. I know Cog has, I think, the tiebreaker advantage on them. I'm not entirely sure about Enemy, but they're going to need at least one more win, either here or against Team Solo Mid, to move into that 11-win situation. And
right.
Denial looks like they could 2-0 here.
I mean, that's the situation.
Like flat.
That's how strong they looked. Again, we can disagree with how Envy wound up drafting their team, but at the end of the day, you still have to play well to beat a bad draft, and I think that's putting it lightly. We saw a lot of individual performances here coming out of Denial, and we spoke a lot about the outside lanes, but I think a big part of it was also Macetodaface and his flexibility on that Janus. You mentioned his utility, able to provide portals for his teammates to get out, but also using the ultimate straight for aggression. And then one of my favorite things was we noticed that Denial was finding individual players by themselves, almost isolated, but they were safely in their jungle. You're never safe when there's a Janus on the map. Ultimate comes out, all of a sudden there's 4 people surrounding you, and that was a lot of what happened to Envy as they fell here 1-0. So we'll take a look.